Hi, so we have with us Salil Desai, who's the author of 206 Bones and Inspector Saralkar Mystery. That's his latest one in the series. Hi, Salil.
Hi, Manjula. Thank you for inviting me.
Salil, I just love this character Saralkar and I love the stories set in Pune. And, it's like they're so satisfying. So I had to, I mean, I've told you before, I've read the Raikkonen one, so the killing of Sonia Raikkonen, right?
I'm Sonia Raikonen. Yeah.
Yes, and this one, 206 Bones, which is my second one from your books. And what I love about both is that they're so satisfying when you finish reading them. You know, so I shouldn't be talking. So you tell me how this idea for the Saralkar series started. You know?
Uh, Actually, the idea for Saralkar series was conceived when I was doing a documentary for the Pune CID, or rather the Maharashtra CID.
Okay.
This was way back in 2006.
Oh.
And the thing is that I've always loved crime fiction.
Ah.
Uh, I had also realized during whatever little writing I had done till then that I was a rather plot-based writer. Now,
Hmm.
there was this plot that I had in mind for some time,
Hmm.
and I decided that why not turn this into a murder mystery, into a
Ah.
police procedural.
Okay.
While I was doing the shoot for CID, it
Ah.
seemed that particularly, it sort of paved the way, for the form, the kind of structure that I'd like to give it. And
Hmm.
I started writing, and I wrote my first book, which basically was first released as The Body in the Backseat, but later has become Killing Ashish Karve as
Okay.
such.
Okay.
So that's the story behind it.
So.
It was a huge task. It was my first novel, and I had to get as many things right as possible. So of course I set it in Pune, which I knew. There was a lot of knowledge I'd gained during the documentary. While making the documentary, and I thought that fine, let me attempt this. I had not seen too many good police procedurals written by Indian authors in English.
Hmm.
I thought I should make a start, and that's how it sort of worked out.
Hmm. Though now, I mean, police procedurals, I think there's with these, but with these like conflicted policemen, and set in Indian settings. Like I think Anita Desai's Bore Gowda and this guy's Rudranil Sengupta, who's a
Right.
former colleague of mine, is set
Right.
in Delhi. These are
Yeah.
those softer ones also with the women lawyers, and then I think
Right.
mini. I can't remember. These one set in Malabar Hill, which are softer. So all these are.
Right.
I think that the scene in India is like kind of like really beginning to thrive. What do you think?
Um, I have a feeling that publishers are a lot more open to Indian settings and Indian authors writing in English about mysteries, so to say. I'm not sure how whether it's thriving. I think it's doing fairly well.
Mm.
But the fact remains that as far as Indian authors are concerned, I have a feeling that they have some way to go in terms of coming up with something which is really really different from what is written abroad, etc. I have a feeling. I often get a feeling. I try and read as many Indian books written by Indian authors, and I get this feeling that uh, this I've read there somewhere already. There is this something which should be better than this particular thing. Uh,
Mm.
Otherwise, I think yeah, it's something good. I have written 10 books now, and 9 of which have been murder mysteries, or basically six of the Inspector Saralkar series, and three other books which are again crime fiction. So obviously, I mean, it is thriving, but I feel there are a lot more authors who can do well, and if they concentrate on the quality rather than coming up with something which is just a pale sort of copy of what has been written elsewhere. And that's a sincere thing. Not many people like this idea when I say this, but that's how I look at it. Yeah.
Hmm. But I mean, I find like at least the ones that I enjoy, like your books, I find that they're very set in a place, and so that's the enjoyment comes from understanding that, like, and I don't know, I think even if I've never lived in Pune, I have lived in Pune for 3 years, like around the time when you were doing that CID thing, actually.
Oh,
So, but our paths never crossed because I guess I'm not doing that sort of stuff. But so I really enjoyed the setting of it, and the people. I could like almost recognize types of people. Sometimes
right.
like.
The personality types, the characters. Yeah.
So you want to talk about that? How you brought like very Puneri people into the book.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've always felt is that you know when you write about a city or when you write about a particular place, uh, you have to make it authentic, and the best way to make it authentic is not to give long descriptions of various places or various foods or various things. I mean, that is
Mm.
a part of it, but I think
Mm.
what is very important is to get the characters right. And all
Mm.
the characters have to be, none of them should be in the story only to throw suspicion on. You know,
Ah.
they shouldn't be cardboard characters. There has got to be a certain motivation. They have to
Mm.
remain in your mind. They have not come here to get suspected. They're not in the story for that. They're living their
Mm.
lives, and
Mm.
while living their lives, they have been unfortunate enough to get entangled in
Mm.
a murder mystery or be associated in some way to somebody who's a suspect or something like that. That kind of thing. Uh, what I've really tried to do, or which has sort of come to me naturally, is that I get the names right many times. I also decide that when I'm taking a character, I need that character to go to what extent in the story, and what is
Mm.
their own life that I'm really looking at. Uh, Attitudes. That is one very important thing. Both of us are, a product of our circumstances,
Mm.
of our surroundings, and
Mm.
that vibe has to come through. The Pune
Mm.
vibe has to come through in many ways. In my case,
Mm.
it has to come through, and therefore, one of the things that has to be, one has to get right is how the characters speak and
Yes.
what is it that they have in mind, what way are they looking at various things. Okay, so I think that somehow has worked, and you could call it hard work or you could call it whatever it is, but somehow it's come naturally to me, and I'd say that I'm lucky that I
Mm.
somehow managed to get this right, because everyone talks about my characters, which earlier I never really thought that I was doing such a great job, but the more I wrote about it, the more I realized that yeah, I think this is one thing that I'm getting quite you know I've got the craft to do it with. Yeah.
Mm. And what I enjoyed is that how, without you banging the person and reader on the head with it, one immediately understands the economic class and the caste of the person, who's speaking and their attitudes. Like, immediately you understand where this person is coming from. And as a reader, I didn't even know that I would understand that. So that's very like, so talk about that. Does thought go into this, or you? I mean, how do you do it?
See, the thing is that I have lived in Pune for a long time. I mean,
Mm.
I've been born here, educated here, and of course, I've been here for most of my adult life. The thing is that uh, I happen to be from, like all of us, we are basically from what could be called the just about average middle class. And
Mm.
therefore, I've been lucky to meet a lot of people of all kinds. So,
Mm.
and this has helped me sort of understand. Uh, how characters think of themselves, what are the stories that they tell themselves, and
Mm.
what are the kind of what is the way that they'd like to project themselves to other people.
Hmm.
Nobody in this world is totally honest.
Yes.
They're basically trying to project themselves in a particular way. So
Hmm.
even if
Hmm.
they're telling the truth is said in a way which they believe will sort of get across to the person who's asking the questions. That kind
Hmm.
of thing. So this is very important. While words like exposition and all that, I think exposition is extremely important while working with characters. The things that people say, the things that people do, and the generation and the age and the strata that they belong to always comes through, always has
Hmm.
to come. So
Hmm.
this is what I do. It's actually, Anjula, I'll be very honest. Sometimes I also ask myself this question. I mean, if it's like, you telling me I like the book. Okay, so while I'm writing the book, I'm not so sure that the character is working so well. But I go
Hmm.
ahead because that's the way I want. That's the arc that I want to give it. That's the way. And only when you tell me after somebody reads and says that it's damn good, then I realize, oh yeah, it's pretty good, actually. So it's not that I go into the story thinking, wow, what a fantastic job I've done. That
Ah.
kind of thing. So I think this ability to be surprised also helps. That means that
Hmm.
you're never sure of yourself, and that's a very good thing. That,
Ah.
that
Yeah. So, this Saralkar's character also, his biting wit, his throwaway remarks, but also, like, unlike a lot of, a lot of these police procedurals, the central character is always like, I mean, I don't know, even internationally, so he's always one has unhappy relationships with women, but this guy has a good relationship with his wife. At least even in the earlier Raikkonen one, and there was some conflict, but it
yeah.
was clear that they were a decent couple. It's not like he's like, मतलब उसको कुछ नहीं है, he has nobody in the world, and he's a failure emotionally. He's not like that, though he is
Absolutely.
conflicted. So this is also a different thing about this character, which makes one quite happy. So
Absolutely.
talk about that.
This is something I'd sworn to myself, that
Oh,
I am not going to have a character who is in some way, either he gets too drunk or
yeah,
he's too, alienated from society, or he's got some severe problems, or he's got some
yeah,
psychological issues. I thought a lot of that had gone into the 1980s and 1990s and 2000 kind of stuff, which I had been reading, which
yeah,
mercifully was quite absent during the Agatha Christie times, the Sherlock
yeah.
Holmes times, that kind of a
Yeah.
thing. Plus, um, I would like to talk of some of the influences. One of the things is that I found three extremely good policemen, or rather, leading policemen in fiction. One is Colin Dexter's Inspector Morse. I mean,
Yes,
I thought
yes, yes.
he was really well crafted,
Yeah.
very well done. Secondly, it's Inspector Daglish.
You lovely. Oh, fantastic.
Absolutely, he's a poet. He's,
Yeah.
there's something different about this. There's something quiet and nice about him as such. And the third thing is Inspector Wexford, of
Yes.
by Ruth Rendell.
Yeah.
Now, all these characters, I realized that they were working without any kind of unnecessary. Morse at least had some problems. Morse
Yeah.
always had
Yeah.
some kind of a thing. But the other two characters were fairly good. So this is one thing was probably at the back of my mind when I was developing Saralkar. I wanted to make Saralkar as that Puneri guy with that terribly sharp sense of humor. Borders on cruel. It borders on cruel. It is it is perceptive in many ways, but it is also very petty in
Yeah.
many ways. So I wanted him to be something like that.
Yeah.
And even Inspector Motkar, PSI Motkar, I wanted to make him somebody who has normal problems. It's
Yeah.
not as if he's got too many. It's not as if they've got some terrible problems, and uh,
Yeah.
that kind of a thing. I think that was a very, very conscious decision that I had taken, and I
Mm.
think I'm glad. that I took that. Otherwise, sometimes you dig a hole which you cannot get out of, especially when there's a series or something. Once you show that a person is prone to calamity, you have to keep on showing that, something wrong again. Because a guy with a lot of, problems is never going to be acceptable to you if he is without problems at some
That's true.
later.
That's true. Yeah. And also, I've noticed about this guy is that, or about the series is like, from the two that I've read, is that you suggest things to the reader. I mean, or the reader infers like really horrible scenarios. Okay, like absolutely hideous scenarios in your head. As with like general news, God knows what the actual stories are. They might be much less terrible. And
Right.
as you progressively read, and so you're already infused with horror at first, okay, and then at the end, it's like an everyday almost calamity. You know, so from both these titles, I mean, of course, the end result is as bad as if it was horrible. But
Right.
still, the motivations of the characters are not what you originally thought. So how
Right.
do you work that out?
This is, I would say that this is something. My bit of Saralkar in it is this, this imagining horrible scenarios.
Yes,
This mind which goes into all kinds of. Uh, the, the fact is that policemen see the worst of things in life. Now,
yes.
what if there is a policeman with imagination? Imagination in the sense that, therefore that leads him to believe the worst of everything that might come out. For example,
Hmm.
so this is my this is something from me. I have this thing that um, I always sometimes tend to feel whether some problem is related to something much more darker or negative than it actually is, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
So I think that bit of it is something there. The other thing is that um, I I feel that in some of the, I mean, you've read these two books, but in many of my other books, it's also gone darker after that. Uh,
Oh,
you know, so
yes.
I've
Huh?
imagined dark things, and it's become even worse than that. That kind
Oh
of
my
thing.
God.
that, that kind of thing. So this is something which I've done with, say, Three and a Half Murders or Murder Milestone, or for
Okay.
example, The Kid Killer. I mean, the Kid Killer is something that even people at home read and asked me, "Come on, I mean, can somebody do that kind of thing?" So it is something that I've tried different sort of approaches to this particular
Hmm.
thing. But yeah, this darkness is there because why done it's are actually much more important than who done it at the end of it.
Yes.
That's the way I
Yes.
look at it.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Talk about that more. Why Danitsa? Because that, like, your books are kind of an illustration of a why done it, right? Yeah. Because at the end, I got like, I mean, I'm not giving any spoilers, but I was like really surprised. Oh, this is why. When
Hmm.
earlier you keep thinking of all sorts of things, and then the actual, you know. So talk
Yeah.
about why done it. The idea of the why done it and how you work it out.
Yeah, the why done it is something I had started concentrating on why done it basically because one of my favorites is Alfred Hitchcock.
Hmm.
And most of his films, in most Alfred Hitchcock films, most of us know who exactly is the villain, who's done it. And what
Uh-huh.
always works out is how is it done, how does it get done, how does it get resolved. There is the suspense, and sometimes it's the why done it. Why
Hmm.
have you done? So what I've realized is there. I mean, what I feel, or maybe it's my limitation. I've realized that there are only so many permutations and combinations you can think of in terms of who done it. Okay, uh,
Uh,
in terms, the format of the police procedural or a murder mysteries that are there are X number of characters, so it's got to be one of those
hmm.
characters
Hmm.
because people generally don't like somebody who, it's one of the golden rules of murder mystery that you don't get somebody from outside suddenly and come this guy. That kind of. So it's got a very finite kind of a thing. Whereas why done it are why done it is an extremely important thing, because what is it that drives the person? And there
Mm.
are so many. I mean, I read a lot. I read a lot of news, and the kind of stuff that I come across, or the kind of things, I really wonder. I mean, that there are these depths to which a person can fall because
Yeah,
of extremely petty reasons,
yeah.
or extremely psychologically troublesome kind of reasons. It's like, I mean, I always give an example when I conduct workshops. I said, in 92, this I'm talking about, I had read this news item that a guy of about 19 or 20, who had been brought up by his grandmother, killed his grandmother because she refused to give him 15 rupees, one
I
five.
think I read this news.
I'm sure that you must have. I mean, so I was horrified by what has, and then I kept on reading about what were his motives, what is it that sort of went wrong, that kind of thing. The more I read it, I thought that these why done it's are extremely important. Then there are n number of reasons in this world that are horrifying. I mean, look at the case of in I think Gurgaon, if I'm not mistaken, a 11th standard student
Yeah.
killed a 6-year-old boy because he wanted to postpone exams, because he
Yes.
thought by doing that the exams could be postponed. I mean, how do you imagine all this? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
what more can you think of? Yeah. So I think when I start off while writing my novels, this uh, you know by a process of osmosis, lots of these whys, or why people kill or why people do things, have sort of percolated in my mind or something like that. And one of these comes to the fore when I'm trying to sort of sort out, what is it that I wish to say in this particular story. And once I get a central why, then I decide, okay, fine, this is the why that I'm going to really concentrate on. And how do I get to it? How do I build a story? How do I build this plot? How do I take it forward? So I have to be very convinced with the why at any
Okay.
point in time. So that is what drives, unless I get a why, I don't move ahead with the story. It
Ah.
really doesn't help me go straight ahead with what I wish to do. The who is something that can in fact change, but the why in my story, uh, what I've thought of initially, generally never changes. That sort of remains in my mind as such, and
Hmm.
that's how it comes out.
Hmm. And in this novel, there's one character who's like really, I mean, he's bleak beyond, and then you think that, yeah, there must be officers like that also, na? you know,
Absolutely.
and that's like a generational curse sort of thing. So, so for that.
Yeah, and I've summed up his attitude in yeah, towards the end, as to the fact that self cursing yourself is has a very limited shelf life. People are
Yeah,
not born like that. People are not made like that.
yeah,
The the it always turns towards somebody else. I will survive. Why not? I mean, somebody else should die. That kind of a thing.
yeah.
That is it. So that is what I've tried to bring through. Yeah.
So tell me, I've always wondered about this. In your actual life, do you also, like, in your interactions with people, do you think that they are capable of things? And, how does it play out in your everyday life also?
I I am amazed at the amount of normalcy that I have in my life, in terms of, I'm touch wood, of course, but I'm saying that the kind of life that I lead, or I wish to lead, or something like that, is quite normal. There's really nothing. Of course, there are many moments which where somebody realizes that I'm a writer and I write murder mysteries. So there is a special look that is given to me, which sort of tells me, ki, look, I mean, either you're a dangerous person or you have some terrible tastes or whatever, that kind of this thing. But otherwise, I think in regular life, my I also seem I am also quite surprised many times that I think of all this dark stuff, and then I think of Stephen King, and I realize that there is this guy who's even worse. He
Yes.
thinks of even more terrible things, and he lives a perfectly normal life or something like that. But yeah, I remember an incident in Infosys. I'd gone for a short Infosys Pune. This was about some 7, 8 years ago, and there was this 1 hour workshop or talk or whatever I was giving, and there were these 30 people in the room, and they were talking and all that, and then I suddenly asked a question: how many of you have read my books? That kind of about
Mm.
4 or 5 hands went up, etc., etc. So in the first row, there was one guy who hadn't raised a hand. So I said, "You haven't read my book?" So he said, "No." I said, "I'll keep this in mind." I just said it as a to make it lighter or whatever it is. You will not believe it, Manjula. He never came back for a photograph, the group photograph which was taken at the end of the session.
You got scared?
Right. That guy throughout the time looked at me as if I was going to do something. When we took a break, he moved out. And I am telling you, I mean, I just said it out of this thing. I, in fact, asked the HR guys. I said, "Look, I hope that guy hasn't taken it personally." I was just joking, that kind of thing. So, you never know very weird things. And there are people who I have been approached at least twice saying that there is something that can you look into the matter or something like that. By private people, I said, "Boss, I'm a writer. I don't get into this. I think the right place is that you go to the police or you hire somebody else. I'm not into this kind of thing." So these are things that happen, but once in a while. It's not as if I think about that too many abnormal incidents. Touch wood, no, nothing much.
Hmm. And as somebody who knows, who knows the sound of Marathi and all. So when I was like reading the book, I was trying to, I was almost sometimes thinking that these people are talking in Marathi, you know.
Hmm.
So, and I found that fascinating that I should, and I was wondering, is it because I know the sound of Marathi and I know Marathi, I'm not great at it, but I know it as a language. Is that why I'm imagining that they're speaking in Marathi, or is this something that you did to make the characters,
Probably, the thing is that one is, of course, since you know a bit of Marathi, so you know how it sounds, how two people of that particular region might
will
be
speak.
speaking to each other.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
The other thing is that I think it's also got something to do with the fact that since my entire education has been in Pune or in India or whatever you may call it, the thing is I have become uh, I'm fairly good at saying things in an Indian way without the grammar being bad or without the the cadence of the sentence or the language going wrong or something like that. I think that's worked out. And again, let me again say that some of these things are every writer would like to say that I work on these things and all that, or whatever it is. And probably I do, but
Hmm,
not with that much. After a point in time, it becomes an unconscious kind of an effort, a subconscious kind of an effort where all this comes fairly easily. The the only principle or the only thought that is there in my mind when I'm writing is my next line has to be equally interesting. I
hmm,
hate to be boring. I detest being boring. I'm sure that I must have been boring at some places here or there or whatever it is, but that is my overriding emotion while I'm writing. That every page has to be interesting to the reader,
hmm,
and that is what has kept me in the this thing. I am terrified of writing bad stuff. I'm terrified of coming up with tropes. I'm terrified of repeating myself somewhere, that kind of a thing. I'm sure it must still be happening, but I think that being terrified helps me do a fairly good job, I think.
hmm. But I like when I was reading it, I was wondering because there's a satisfaction thing about murder mysteries and police procedurals is that at the end of it, the reader is satisfied. You know,
Yeah.
it's the only thing that gives you that sort of satisfaction. You know that okay, we have solved this. So what is it that the writer himself gets out of it? Do you while you're working it out and when you finish it, do you also go through that arc? Or what?
Yes, I do.
You
In
do?
fact, the thing is that, however well you may have written the ending, and I'm talking only about the ending, not about the entire
Oh.
book, which is a separate issue. But however well you may have written the ending, you at least I am always doubtful whether this is working the way I want it to work on the reader's mind or to the reader's satisfaction. That kind of thing.
Mhm.
There is always this feeling that maybe somebody will say, "Acha, ye tha, oh this," that kind of thing. There's this tone of disappointment
Uh,
because the readers. One thing about other readers are fine, but readers of this particular genre, crime, fiction, murder mystery, that kind of a thing, they are extremely judgmental and they need the ending to be good. If the ending is not good, all your 300 pages, 350 pages means zilch. And
mm.
that way, I think they are very unforgiving.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, yes.
Crime writing, that is one particular thing. Love stories, you can have unsatisfactory endings, but it's okay. You can similarly with ghost stories or literary fiction or whatever. Crime fiction, may if you go wrong, the entire book is of no use.
Yeah.
Almost as bad
I
as.
stopped reading Ruth Rendell's books because of this. Because I found that always I could make out who was the killer and why he killed. So I got irritated. After a few, I stopped reading.
It's like after a point in time, she shouldn't have continued writing. It's almost, that feeling that I used to get with Ruth Rendell, because you knew the general direction in which this was
Yeah.
going to
अरे
go.
he's standing, he's a butcher. अच्छा, he's the murderer. He is the murderer.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely true.
Oh, right. So, but how do you plot your stuff? Like, tell me how when you're working on a novel, how do you do it?
Well, the thing is that it it works in many ways. Most of the times, I sort of work out a basic plot, sort of break it down into, if not chapter wise, at least, for the first 10 chapters, I sort of break it down that, okay, this is what's going to happen. This is how it's going to go through. And then of course, beyond a point, then I decide how it moves further. At any point in time where I feel that I need to stop and, reconsider what I'm writing, or I need to take it forward in a particular way, I stop again and I do that. But most of the times I begin with a why, as I said, with a story around that why, that kind of a thing. And of course, whether the story falls in is good for a police procedure, because that is a very important consideration. I have written books which are not procedurals, and
Hmm.
consciously. The Sane Psychopath, for example, The Grudges of Gajanan Godbole, which is
Hmm.
basically written in the first person.
Hmm.
It's the murderer who's writing the
Okay.
kind
Okay.
of all that kind of thing. So I've written those things. So one thing is that the story has to work well for a police procedural. And what is a good police procedural? According to me, it has to be around 300 pages. Otherwise, I mean, 300 or more, 300 pages at least. Otherwise, it doesn't really become a police procedural. It becomes a. So these are things I try to work out.
Hmm.
I also have this thing which may not be unique to me, but which has become my signature, is basically this thing called parallel tracks, which I
Yeah.
have writing.
Hmm.
It's worked very well for me. It's more like a screenplay in that sense.
Hmm.
Parallel tracks to and fro, that kind of thing. So this is something that I have to work out a lot, in the sense that, uh, do I have enough stuff and enough characters and enough if not subplot, storylines which take you a little further away and then sort of bring you back. But I have enough of it to have this parallel plot, a parallel track structure. So that these are some of the things that I look at. Then of course there are individual things. I mean, some stories just fly off. You can get it quite right. Some stories you write wonderfully for about 10,000, 15,000 words, and then you just suddenly come to a grinding halt because something
Mm,
is not working, or something is sort of not still been worked out in your mind as
mm,
such. So you come to a grinding halt. Then there are other stories where you've decided that you're going this way, and then you realize, okay, there's another thing that could be much more interesting. So that acts as a distraction, and you take the wrong route or the right route or whatever it is, and then you have to again correct yourself in case
mm,
you have not. There are many things that really work out during the process of writing. Um, Overall, I think I would say that I don't know about many writers who can, make a summary of 30 chapters and keep it ready. There could be some, but at least I
mm.
don't belong to that category. So, yeah, the plot is very important, and of course, uh, the why done it, so to say.
Uh, so, but then you sit and like what when you write, you're just writing it, or like I've spoken to some writers who say that they work out like everything that's going to happen and then they write it. Which I find very strange. How this is very difficult to do.
I don't know. I think to each his own. I don't do that. What I do is I work out roughly and then I start writing. I think there's a lot of there is something to be said for spontaneity. Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
uh, and that spontaneity can come when you're actually writing. Okay, when you're
Hmm.
actually writing stuff. Uh, Finally, uh, I'm into narrative fiction, and that is something that I simply cannot forget.
Hmm.
Language, the nuances of language, the beauty of using things, the use of humor, the use of
Yeah.
terms of phrases. This is equally important, and
Yes.
I love to do that. So I spend a lot of time actually writing. And I've got a fairly worked out thing in that sense that I write by hand. I write by hand, then I put it on the computer after about three chapters. So what happens is
Okay.
I parallelly edit at the same
Okay.
time. What have I written? That kind of thing. So I write for say 3 weeks. Then I decide to go take it to the computer, and then I start sort of typing it in and making corrections or whatever it is. It also gives me an idea if things are working, what
Yeah.
I've written is right. I improve my language, etc., etc. I'm not too much into rewriting drafts, etc., etc. I'm not too much into it. So far, it's held me in good stead. I also have a feeling that people who keep on laboring belaboring their drafts, or laboring again on their. I don't know whether it's a thing of personal satisfaction that look, I've worked on it, or the book actually improves. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Hmm.
I've got a very good friend who writes, who's a brilliant writer who's not been as published as, I mean, he's got a book and all that. Uh, I am amazed at the amount of effort he puts. Amazed
Okay.
at the amount of effort he puts. And I have told him so many times, yaar, tera pehle wala bhi theek tha. It was good. Why have
Hmm.
you changed it? What exactly? And that kind of thing. So I think it is, in my case, I try to go in for spontaneity, and spontaneity with a fair amount of discipline, and rewriting only to the extent it is necessary, not just because I'm dissatisfied with it. I'm an artist and I need to do this better or something like that kind of.
Hmm. And for me, when I was reading it, the point of satisfaction really was when the two parallel tracks met. I was like, oh, I put the book down and said, oh, acha, so that was also enjoyable. So talk about writing that.
Well, now, I don't know whether to be candid or whether to try to retain my image as a wow, what a great writer to myself. That is. The thing is that I I I hadn't thought so deeply about the second track as
Ah,
such. I started
mm,
with the first track.
mm,
Started with the first track and I reached chapter 5 or something like that, and I realized that yeah, I have to have a second track which is equally strong, not just for the plot reasons, but for the
mm.
fact that it has to be seen as something which is a mystery by itself,
Yes.
that kind of thing. And then I stopped. I sort of worked it out. What is it? Where is it going to lead to? That kind of
Mm,
thing. And then sort of then decided how am I going to, at what point in time I'm going to get them together and that kind of thing. So, as far as 206 Bones is concerned, yeah, it took me, I was a little lazy to begin with, as such.
mm,
But then
mm.
the good part is I caught that little laziness at the fifth chapter itself when I was writing. Look, otherwise it won't hold. The fact is, the fact about parallel tracks is both of them have to be strong. If they are not strong, then, people lose interest in the first or second track, whichever is weaker, and then it
Mm,
sort of trundles off, that
mm.
kind of thing. So that is something that I sort of tried and worked out as best as I could on this thing. Um, and as far as the, the 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 characters are concerned, um, I had to come up with something. One, I was dealing with something which has happened 40 years ago, and
Yeah.
one which has happened just now.
Yes.
So there had to be, a sort of to make it very real in both ways. Because again, the another thing about parallel tracks is that one can't be less authentic than the other. They,
Yes.
the age, the time, the period in which you're, setting the earlier one has
Mm.
to be equally authentic as
Yeah.
the modern age, so to say, that kind of.
Yeah.
Because you're going to come back. Finally, the crime is something that you're going to investigate today and not
Yeah.
40 years ago, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but because it 40 years ago, it like clearly the I mean, again, I don't want to give spoilers. Whatever happened happened a long time back, and and it's now being discovered. So there's that horror of that also, now, because the past and you think, oh my God, this place looked so normal, but actually it's like this, you know.
Absolutely. The other thing I wanted to bring home is that look at the misfortune of whoever it is who was killed 40 years ago, that nobody even missed them.
No,
That
and then
kind
you
of
think
thing.
that in India, that like when you say that whole thing about missing children,
Yeah,
I think that in India there are so many children who must be dying like that. People also,
yeah,
adults also.
absolutely. Absolutely. And it is, the fact that a human being did not even die lamented or missed is one of the things which, is, it's so sad. I mean, it's the simple fact is that this happens in India every day, I think. And there are
Yeah,
many people who, sort of, just go missing or, die or whatever, and nothing is known about them and that kind of thing. So I wanted to capture that horror too. The very fact
yes.
that, and I've already told the story. There is also a personal this thing to it. The thing is that
Mm,
me and I mean, my parents and all that have also been living in such old buildings or that kind of a thing. So a
mm.
friend of mine had a bungalow of his, which was just about to be, sent for redevelopment or given for redevelopment. And that's when it struck me. Come on, here is this normal place which I've been visiting for the last 30, 35 years, and now it's going to be dug up. And what if there is a bo- body underneath it?
And
My
the
friend
friend
actually
had
told
this
me
book.
that yaar डरा रहा है तू.
He said that.
We had a lot of this thing. I said, you told me that तेरा uncle थोड़ा ऐसा जरा सरफिरा वगैरह था. I mean, then we, sort of had these stories we were telling each other. उसका उन्होंने तो किया होगा तो क्या, that kind of.
feel bad for that architect.
Poor guy.
Poor
Especially
guy.
when you're trying to impress a girl.
I know. With his father-in-law around. I mean, prospective. Sad. So is there any plan to make take it on you know on streaming or something?
The thing is that three of my books have been acquired, screenwrites of three of my books have been acquired by Geo Studios.
Okay, okay.
21. A Murder Milestone, which was my fourth Inspector Saralkar Mystery, has been made into a ready web series season 1 and 1.5, 11
Oh,
episodes. It has still not been released after 2.5 years, and Geo has a lot of such things. So I don't know. We are all waiting, desperately for it to come onto the screen.
oh,
Uh, so that is one part of it. The thing is that I, I would I think this is the sort of series that can actually work like the old BBC series,
yeah,
like these Hercule Poirot and that kind of thing, Sherlock Holmes, things which can
yeah,
go on, there are seasons
yeah,
which can go on, that kind
yeah.
of thing. And I think I have sufficient masala to sort of build that. I've already got six.
Yeah,
So let's hope that I'm hoping that Geo Studios releases that web series, and people love it so much that immediately I'll be in great demand.
yeah. Yeah, that's true. And also, I was thinking when I like when I said, I was thinking that they're speaking in Marathi in some parts and all. So I would think that this would do very well if it was translated into other languages, into Indian languages also. What do you think?
Absolutely. And as of now, only two of my books have been translated, and that too into Marathi.
Into
There is
Marathi?
some discussion which is going on for other books as well. Plus, I believe, if not Hindi, there are so many other languages in which. I mean, I've always felt that, for example, if this was ever, these books were ever released in Malayalam or something like that, there's
Yeah,
enough. I mean, they make wonderful police procedurals. They make
yeah,
excellent stuff, and I'm sure that it can be done in, translated into other languages also.
yeah.
Um, Waiting and watching.
It would
Uh,
do really well, I think, in other Indian languages also, because why not? You know? So,
Certainly in Bengali, certainly in Malayalam, Tamil also, I believe,
yeah,
has a lot of pulp fiction too. So I
yeah,
think this is quite sort of, yeah. But I don't know how it works in terms of publishers, how much effort they put in getting it across to all these places. And of course, I don't know the markets over there
yeah,
for these particular languages.
yeah. Anyway, let's hope it works out, and then there'll be more readers, and
Yeah.
so I could keep going on because I really enjoyed this book. I read it in one sitting, flat,
Oh,
just like the Sonia Raikkonen. My son was saying, "What are you doing?" The whole day I'm just sitting and reading. So that's a big thing because usually I'm very distracted.
wow. Oh. I'm so glad that you liked the book. It's really to read my other ones also, if possible.
Yes, I will. I will. And now for the listeners and viewers, go out and get 206 Bones by Salil Desai, and it's an Inspector Saralkar mystery. It's excellent. It's great reading, enjoyable, and very satisfying. So thank you so much, Salil, for talking to me.
Thank you so much, Manjula. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.